Hi, I'm Akshaye.
And I'm Rohan Nahar.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing Drishyam 2, not the Malayalam original, which was a few years back. That would make no sense, but we'll do it right now. We're talking about the Hindi remake of it, starring Ajay Devgn, Tabu, and Akshaye Khanna. Came out in theaters a while back. I have no clue. But it's now on Prime Video, which is why it brings it to our podcast. What do you make of it, Ron?
So I watched the original when it came out, not in theaters, but whenever it came out in streaming.
I watched the original 2 days ago.
Okay, so you're gonna have to fill me in because I don't remember much of it beyond what happens right at the end. Although this movie does that, I mean, it makes an attempt to do that in the opening credits.
Sort of, yeah, like a montage, like it's trying to like fill you in.
Yeah, just images from the first movie that kind of do a little to get you up to speed, which I think was helpful. But there's not really much that you need to know beyond what happens in the end, and I remembered that, so I was good to go.
Yeah.
I did feel it was better than the first one. From what I remember the first one being, I thought that was a really clumsy movie, which talked down to its audience often. This one is slightly more evolved, although not excellent. It's an improvement, I'd say.
I mean, I saw them back to back, pretty much, and I thought they were pretty similar in my mind. I mean, like craft-wise and like budget-wise, you can obviously see differences. You know, it's like the Salgaonkar family has become rich and the producers have become rich at the same time. So they're like, the house has gotten renovated. Everything is like, he's driving a Kia now. In the first movie, he could not even afford a car. Like he was borrowing people's cars and Jeeps and stuff. And now they're like a proper rich family. So that way, it's like, I mean, sure, enhanced, you can say. But from like a every other standpoint, I just like felt quite similar to me. If anything, like this one, in a way, felt, I'm not going to say complex is the word, like more convoluted. Like, it's like they're trying to like outdo us so much is that eventually when things come together, I'm just like, abhi thoda zyada ho raha hai tumhara like plotting.
I mean, see, I'm comparing it in my head also to other Hindi thrillers, right? Which aren't thrilling at all, and they're very, very stupid, in fact. Most of them are very stupid.
Yeah.
To this film's credit, it did a couple of, story things that were sort of admirable, in the manner that it doesn't play its cards too soon. Also, it's, in a way, it's operating from a corner, right, that it has written itself into.
Yeah.
Because you know who's dead and you know who's the killer.
Right.
So the mystery kind of is turned on its head when you're kind of trying to understand how he's going to avoid arrest. And at one point it becomes very, very difficult to anticipate how he's going to do that, because it's like everybody knows that he did it, right? So I liked how it would introduce random characters and then you just be like, yeah, of course he knows them, he's friends with them or whatever, but then they eventually have something to do in his grand plan to avoid arrest. And I feel like a lesser movie or a stupider or a more regular Bollywood thriller movie would have spelled that out immediately. Right? I wouldn't have let the audience hang around for like 30-40 minutes wondering who Savio is. Right? So it just leaves that character there and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe someone he met in the last 7 years. But then he has a role to play. And I feel that was a little restrained in an otherwise, very on-the-nose film.
Yeah, I think the one thing I just thought of, actually, the movie's probably better in that it's restrained and it's like in its length also, right? Like the first one was quite over long. This one can probably still be like another 20 minutes down, but like, yeah, compared to the first one, like it is sizably, it feels like quicker. Like by the time the movie got over and when they were done with the whole like, oh, we're going to tell you what we actually like is happening and what he's been doing, I was like, oh yeah, there's going to be like another half an hour now, right? Like, cause like from here, like how Akshaye Khanna now figures out how to like catch him again, whatever. And I was like, wait, the movie in 9 minutes, like for some reason I had paused it. And I was like, really? Like, just gonna leave it here? Like, it feels like, again, like a deliberate cliffhanger to like let us.
For Drishyam 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long the Malayalam ones were. I haven't seen those.
I haven't either, yeah.
But apparently they're like 7 or 8 different language remakes of this franchise, which is insane to me. Like,
yeah, just like speaks to the diversity of the industry in one level in India, but also speaks to, like, I guess, this the sheer popularity of the narrative.
Yeah, and also like it's a no-brainer at this point. Like, there is something elemental about this story that has worked, right? And I don't know if we can understand why, but it certainly has. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why this is so popular. Like, I can't think of any other IP that would, spawn like 7 different remakes. It's crazy if you think about it. Like, I can't think of it. And I also tried to, kind of get to the bottom of why this movie was so massively successful when it came out, right? Because it doesn't make sense. It's not like a Brahmastra or something, right?
It's not even original.
It's not even original. It's like a remake of a Malayalam movie that, you can watch at home. Like we did.
It literally came to home. Like, that was because of COVID. It got pushed to like streaming directly.
So there are 2 theories that I came up with, right? First is it's a remake of a movie that a lot of people watched, right? Not a remake. I would rather a sequel to a movie that a lot of people watched. So there is obviously going to be interest in franchises, especially one that most people liked. But what I think really kind of gets to the core of why this movie was successful in a year where so many like Kantara and all those movies have been successful, is that this is very old fashioned. Like, the character that Ajay Devgn is playing is 30 years ago ka idea of what a guy should be, like, and I think that is something that has appealed to a large section of Desi Janta. And if you think about it, it's very, very prehistoric, right? Like, how he like, if he would just tell his wife कि मैंने ये किया है, I'm sure 2 heads are better than 1, right?
Yeah.
But it's because he kind of looks down on his wife.
And which is the weird thing, right? Like, because I think that's the other thing that movie is going for, is like they really want to make him a nobody, like everyone can relate to, which is why the whole Chauthi Kaksha fail thing is mentioned over and over, right? Like, that's like a core of this movie, is that in a way he's nothing, right? Like, society looks down upon him. He's just a cable operator and a Chauthi fail. His wife has like studied till 10th, which we told in the first movie. But she's like dumber than he is, whatever.
She's dumber than he is.
And he has like real street knowledge or whatever, like gained through through movies, apparently, just watching movies and movies again and again. But now then, in a way, like, he's not really a failure because now he has like a cinema. I'm like,
which is also
the whole thing you set up in the first movie of him being just like a next door relatable guy, like, who sort of like hasn't really got anything in life, but like his brain's there. Now suddenly you're saying that even the money is there, so then how is he relatable anymore?
No, but that's another reason why this movie is so attractive, right? Because it's like he's a regular guy like you and I, or average
So basically,
Joe.
like, they're sort of selling the aspiration of it now.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And he's someone who's like, you watch movies, I watch movies, everyone watches movies. And that's how it's such a popular and, pervasive medium, kind of informs a lot of things. And yeah, like, it's just the aspirational quality of it, right? This regular dude could just become like this big business magnate.
Yeah. And the regular dude can like outsmart everyone. Like, that's also the aspiration they're selling, right?
Yeah, including like cops. And you have to understand, like, the reason behind his crime, so to speak, was also he didn't just go out and kill somebody. He did like to protect his family and like honor and like meri daughter, meri wife, all that.
And those like very like traditional Indian values.
Yeah, and this movie also ends with him saying something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things combined is, I think, part of the appeal. Although that just gets you, whatever, your opening day audiences. It really has to grab you by, like, the story has to really work for you to appreciate the movie. And there, I don't know. I'm not sure if the story is like, it's very like basic. There are a lot of like plot contrivances.
Yeah, that's what I felt. I was like, in a sense, like, this movie is like shorter, but like actually the movie is even shorter because the story it's telling is very, very like bare bones compared to the first one. The first one had so much more plot, I felt. This one like has a lot less of it. And it's just like told in like a manner that feels like it's, complex. But once you actually like, once a movie finishes, you're just like, oh, itna hi hua? Like, they did so little in this one. Because the first one in a way is a complete movie, right? This one leaves out on a cliffhanger. Like, you need to watch 3 to now like sort of get closure. 1 I felt like was closure. We didn't need a 2 when 1 happened. Like if you never knew it was coming, because like he's just like outsmarted and they move on with their lives. But now you sort of left in a place deliberately. So in a way, like it's almost like half a movie. It's not even a complete movie.
But what I'm also confused about is like after the first one, Tabu appeared to be like, "Theek hai, whatever, I'm moving on." But in this one, they require her to kind of go back on what she had, and
apparently she's been coming back every year at least once.
That's what we're told. And which is partially a reason why they have to introduce the Akshaye Khanna character, right? Like, this is a new adversary who is not maybe emotionally
and someone who's actually in the system, right? Because she's not in the system anymore, so how will she prosecute him?
Yeah, I mean, she can come and just do like vengeance stuff.
Yeah, which could have been fun.
Maybe that's what they're going to do in the third one, because how else yeah, because
they have to justify it, right? Because if they are not around, then the emotional core of the movie is not there.
Yeah, even in this one ends in another, like there is closure, right? That's what's implied. कि finally no closure mil gaya, whatever he give, like
whatever,
like ashes.
And it's like it's so weird because like I mean the whole movie treats it like as if he was like a benevolent son, and it's just like it's so weird to me that his main act, which like instigate everything, is so rarely mentioned by everyone involved.
We're talking about who?
The son, Samir. Uska, what he did to get killed. That thing is like barely mentioned. Like I think in this one, the sequel, it's literally brought up once by Rajat Kapoor in the police station. That's it. In 140 minutes, it's mentioned once.
Smart, no? Because I don't know, that would have been like a stumbling block, because here you need to feel invested in Tabu's story as well.
Yeah, because in the first movie, for me, she was completely a villain.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you have lost it. I understand, like, whatever you're trying to find your kid, but you have crossed so many boundaries, like, in 15 minutes in one scene.
Yeah. Funnily enough, like, in the hands of Rishabh Shetty, Samir would have been the hero for what he did. So at least इसमें उसको
Kantara plus Drishyam universe में, yeah.
he would have been watching this from the perspective of Samir,
which is a weird thing, right? Like in a way, I feel like maybe like people themselves don't want to talk about that, like as an audience. So then the writers don't want to talk about it because they're like, we don't know where our audience falls on the spectrum, so let's not go into a thorny area.
I mean, no, I think partially it's to humanize Tabu, make her journey a little more this thing, right? Because if you keep reminding the viewer that this person has done like a disgusting act, then you're like, I don't care about this mother's journey, whatever.
No, but I think it's fine for the mother to feel that. But I feel like sometimes the movie feels like, that.
You also doubted her this thing in the first movie, right? You were like, Acha, theek hai, she's the adversary. But here, the adversary is Akshaye Khanna, and she's just a mother looking for closure. And also, I feel like the movie just expects you to remember, because that's why Ajay Devgn is on this, like, I want to protect my family because we were wronged, right, by this dude. And that is kind of baked into like the premise of the movie. And I think that they just expect you to know that, which is why they don't really go back to the crime at all.
Yeah. Now it's like all about the crime that this family committed. Like the original incident is like just gone.
It's which all about itself like, is morally this thing, right? Like, are they criminals at all? Because everybody knows कि उन लोगों ने मारा है, they've killed someone. That's what the town is also referring to Vijay as. Like, ये तो criminal है.
Yeah. Murderer है. Yeah, कैसे होते हैं film industry के लोग. Which like the commentary on like the film parallels were like, which they did in the first movie as well. But like here also like literally in I think the first 15 minutes, I thought like they were trying to give away the ending and trying to be like cute about it. Like when he comes out of that theater, like whatever movie he's screening, he's like, if you send the hero to jail at the end, like that, no one likes that. I'm like, wait, is that what you guys are hinting? Is that what's going to happen here? But obviously then they had to one up that. They couldn't let it.
Where was I? So like what? Like let's talk about like I guess the couple of twists that I remember from the movie. The first time I remember being like, oh, that's a twist, was when the neighbors turned out to be like the Americans, and
basically
yeah, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And the second twist, I guess, was the book thing, but that was more unfair because nobody mentioned it, or did they mention it? I don't remember.
They mentioned like basically like he let it drop with the किससे बात कर रहा था वो when he's talking to that guy, the
Saurabh Shukla.
No, Saurabh Shukla never comes in. He's talking to
the drunk guy.
The medical college security guard who's become his friend, and they go out drinking every night. Us time he mentions कि movie ban raha hai and he wants to be an actor, right? The security guard. And then they casually mentioned one conversation that to avoid like copywriting, like, and I've put the book out there. And then security guard's like, मैं आपके पैर पढ़ता हूँ, like आप कितने smart हो and all that nonsense. So like ऐसे.
Oh, then I can't. I can't dunk the movie on that then.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, ये कहाँ से
they did,
okay, cool. Then they've mentioned it, then it's better.
And उस time it felt weird to me. I was like, why is he only publishing 12, 14 copies? So that part makes sense when they explain it, because he doesn't want that story to go public, right? Because otherwise it will become too easy.
Oh yeah.
He wants it to be like published, but not too published publicly.
Yeah, there's a purpose. Okay, yeah, so that's good. They're leaving the trail there, right? The breadcrumbs.
Yeah, this was for me in the first movie that was clever, right? I thought like there was like a drab dialogue scene between him. I don't know if you remember this dialogue. Next scene between him and the construction guy who was handling the police station, and the conversation basically is the construction guy is like, "अभी ये काम हो गया है और Monday से flooring होगा," and I was like, "What are these like dry lines, bro? Like who writes dialogue like this?" But it's only like, like 15 minutes later or something when they like show the same scene from another angle, you're like, oh, they did that because they're sort of giving you a clue if you can like get into it, that he's going to use that knowledge to like dump the body there. So that's clever. Like at first sight, you look like ye kya bakwas scene writing hai, and then after a point you're like, oh no, it actually was smart.
Because these things stand out, right? And they're meant to stand out because you're supposed to remember them, right? They're callbacks, right? Because you're like, oh, and it won't stand out if it's just like regular. Yeah,
although I don't think they did that with the Americans couple. I think they just were portrayed as just like a random couple. I don't think there were any breadcrumbs unless I missed them.
No, they weren't. I mean, I don't remember there being any, because it came as a complete like, oh,
yeah,
like I buy it also. It like feels like something that could actually be like a long.
But it's like insane, like how much money the Goa police have thrown at the Salgaonkar family, despite like having no evidence for like years and years. It's like almost like a witch hunt on some level, right? Like imagine, because in a way, like how do you justify that?
The parents are no longer like going to the cops every day. Like, dhundo, qatil.
Exactly. They're like living in London. So unka to British accent hona chahiye when they come back, which is not there, but that's a different argument.
Like Junior NTR and Ramcharan these days.
Basically.
No, but like, why is the police so devoted? Like, he's actually like a upstanding member of the community, right? He's like providing so much economy ko boost de raha hai wo Vijay Salgaonkar.
Exactly. And so like, that's what I'm saying, like it's just like in the first movie itself it was a witch hunt, because every step of the way Tabu would be like, do this, and then they would get no result, do this, get no results, and they kept doing it. I'm like, wait, so despite all that, you kept like waiting for one opportunity like that would come one day, which came after like 5 years, and you got an opportunity, and they're like, oh wait, he's selling some land, we must like take. And I'm like, बाप रे, मतलब गोवा पुलिस के कुछ काम ही नहीं है क्या? बस यही है, एक पालोलेम गाय को उनको ढूंढ के जेल में डालना है. क्राइम होता नहीं है basically, I think, इस शहर में, I think.
I mean, what else will they do? They just chase like tourists from Delhi, like stop littering.
Or smoking up.
Yeah, like get out. The occasional murder, they're like, oh my god, like everyone, sabko bulao ab. Pura force isme jayega.
But yeah, clearly budget अच्छा है, because like, to get like an entire couple to like live as like a squabbling couple who like beat each other up in the backyard. Yeah.
What do you think about Akshaye Khanna and his insane like introductory scene? Like, I laughed over there when he's playing chess with himself.
And then he turns the table around. He was like full, like, how you introduce like a villain in an 80s, like some Sholay or something.
I do think that movie is a little, it's knowing in that sense. Like, it knows that this is a movie, right? Which is like meta also, because
I think that everyone knows that. Yeah, it is meta because they talk about like filmmaking parallels inside the movie.
Yeah.
But then they also like, it feels too heightened sometimes for me to like think, because they're trying to make it a believable story, right? About like a grounded sort of family.
And I think that's a performance thing, right? Because Ajay Devgn is again like very, he's a restrained performer generally. He's not over the top. Right. But then his entire family is just like over the top, like they're always crying and like visibly shaking, and I'm like, bhai sahab, control yourself. Yeah. And Akshaye Khanna is like scenery chewing villain. He's playing like his mustache twirling types. And his
That's what's missing,
henchmen are like loud, like, you know, like.
I mean, yeah, Guy Tonde is just a mess, right?
Yeah.
That character does not fit in the universe.
At all.
Yeah.
He's just like.
I think there would be a restraining order on that guy to like not go near this family in real world. But clearly, like somehow he's allowed around them again. I think there would be literally, if this thing happened in real life, I think there would be a restraining order on the entire police force, actually. Like the way you harass them, you cannot go near these people again for life.
Yeah, they've all gone rogue, like just completely insane.
And the thing is, like, it repeats itself, right? So, like, I was it's very curious to me that in the first movie that no lawyers were involved ever. You know, it was like police would stumble, apprehend these family, talk to them, push them around, and I was like, "Bhai sahab, koi like legal fraternity involved नहीं होती है क्या इन चीजों में?" So this time, like, they make the effort to introduce the legal fraternity, right? Like, we have multiple court scenes. We have a lawyer who shows up as a Sargarkar family lawyer, and she even like tells them, you know, that before they step in for the questioning, that what the rights they have and stuff. And I'm like, okay, then should we present inside or someone from the like at this point, if your court is saying that you have 8 hours to interview these people and you cannot touch them and you cannot behave with them the way you used earlier, I think in reality there would be a court-appointed observer who would be inside the ensuring that no policeman gets like within 5 feet of any Sargarkar member. But nahi, just like the entire thing that happened in the first movie just happens again, all over.
What I also like found a little funny was the interrogation scene. I mean, ek to it's completely, I don't know if that would happen, but the set looks like a Hollywood movie ka interrogation, like
it looks like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine ka like utha ke le aaye.
It's not like, you know, like some dirty like back room where a guy with a lathi hitting.
I know, it was like so polished. I'm like, oi, matlab mast paise aa rahe hain Goa police ke paas.
Paise aa rahe hain, plus they want it to seem like a movie, I guess. Like it's so like,
because I don't think Indian police like rooms have like glass walls and stuff.
Which also kind of tells you who they're targeting maybe with this. Like they expect the audience to have a certain like idea of what an interrogation looks like. You know, like the two people sitting across from each other on a table, and then there's like a two-way mirror and all that.
Yeah, because I mean, in a way, the first movie made more sense because like almost like Tabu's tech took everyone like off the grid in a way. Like this was just trapped in a bungalow and just like people beating everyone up and cops, and in a way like that seems more real. But if you do that in a police station, then does that mean you have to turn off the cameras, right? Because there has to be cameras, CCTV, and you have to turn them off because if that video goes to the court, this police force is screwed. Everyone is suspended for life.
So legally, though, I think it like crumbles like 1 second mein, like the slightest effort it'll crumble. Like I can't even imagine like what is the evidence that will convict someone like Vijay, or like is the body the only thing that they need? Also, how
do you even prove like he dumped the body there? Like you can't go on one witness who like was running around at 3 a.m. with like blood on his hands, and
also like unreliable.
He saw him in the darkness, and 7 years later when after he's in jail, he's like, yeah, that's the guy. I'm like, what?
And also you paid the witness, right? Like there's money exchange. Like wo to fir ho gaya na tumhara.
Like exactly. Like I think the court needs like such heavy like sort of, you know, corroboration that they would just be like, everything you're giving to us is just like, you know, it's incriminating, but it's also like your like bloody fingerprints are in it, and we can't like use this. Like this will backfire.
Yeah. Even the grand like twist, like the book wala thing, कि मैंने book लिखा है, and the cops have just used that narrative, can be disproven, right? Of course he did that for this reason, and I'm sure like put a little effort into it and you'll get him. But there you go.
But it's just like a little known book, and then the judge just buys that they must have read it. I'm like, why would you buy? Why is it the assumption? Why is the assumption that they must have read the book?
Yeah, you can probably track down every copy of that book, right?
Yeah, and how many like owners has it had, and how many times it's been rented.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. But that's just like the cartoonish kind of nature of this movie, and both I think the first one, which I remember as very cartoonish.
It was just throwing so many things at the audience to like sort of like surprise us that after a point you just like you have gone off track.
I would have liked more Tabu this time. I felt that she was just there, like we didn't really need her.
Yeah.
It would have been maybe a little leaner without the emo stuff. Like, would just been like this two people at each other kind of cops and robbers thing. But I guess you need that in a Hindi movie. Like, you need that drama.
Plus, I think you need that because, as we spoke about it in the beginning, right? Like, you for that emotional sort of like core, like you have to relate to like.
You have that. You create it for Vijay's family, right? Because they were the ones who were wronged, in a way. So that's where you kind of generate that sympathy for them. Like, why would you need to generate sympathy for the person that they've killed? Or at least their family member. Like, I felt that was a little...
I think, but maybe that's what like they're trying to do. Right? Maybe they want to like create like a thorny balance where like you're not always on the side of the protagonist, you know, like...
Possible.
That they want you to question them and be like... That's why by putting like, you know, crying Tabu and like broken-hearted Rajat Kapoor, you just like, you can be like, oh, like, look, they just want closure, man. Just give them closure. Like, kya kar rahe ho tum? Sarkar, don't be so, like, you know...
What this movie also completely ignores is like class stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't really kind of deal with any of that. Like how these people, how Tabu basically is very, very privileged, you know, very powerful. And Vijay Salgaonkar is like way less privileged, right? He has nothing to rely on. He doesn't really have money. This all he has is wits. And why?
Although now he has money.
Now he has lots of money. You know, that's some like an angle that maybe could have been kind of explored, you know, like a Parasite sort of situation, but this movie doesn't kind of go there at all.
Yeah, I think what also sort of I found wanting was that it never really sort of paints a picture of anyone beyond the main characters and the lives, how their lives have changed in the 7 years, right? Like Gaitonde gets like one line and just like throws out, he's like, haan, 7 saal to main lockdown mein hu. Like, but like, what does that really mean? Like, how did you survive? How has that impacted you psychologically? Like, we don't know. It just feels like the same Gaitonde from the first movie, right? Nothing has changed about him. It's almost like he was...
I don't remember.
He was put in like cryo sleep or something.
yeah, he's come back just like a Terminator
exactly.
sort of presence.
You know, and then the daughters have gone through like the formative years. They've gone through like, you know, 7 years is insane for children. Especially for like Anu, the tinier one. You know, that should be... And I mean, that person should be going through like trauma. Like she was like beaten up and she was like, you know, so tiny. Like at least Anju was like slightly older. Although they make it like Anju is the one who's going through trauma and she's getting seizures and stuff.
Yeah. No, but I do think that the wife character, it was performed in a very weird way, like a distracting some manner. In this one. But I do honestly feel that they tried to touch on the trauma of the wife often, at least a couple of times. It's just that it came, like the way it's portrayed is very like theatrical, but then she is, like you get a sense that the wife character is at a loss because her husband has not communicated with her at all, right?
And he generally does not communicate with her, right? It feels like the person is like, he leaves in the morning and he comes back at like the next morning, literally.
Which is why she feels the need to kind of the first person who listens to her.
Exactly. Like, that's why she sort of starts spelling this because like there is no other adult to talk to.
Yeah. She hasn't unpacked her emotions like, that's the about thing. Like, the this whole guy ordeal.
Like, is insane. Like when he needs to be protective and like when his family's in danger, he'll go like
he's abusive. Yeah.
He'll go out of the way. He'll do like everything in the world possibly. Like he's like you know, like some insane like Sherlock. But when his family needs to him on a day-to-day level, he's just like gayab. He's an absolute, watching at movies, or is that a cinema watching movies?
Which is again like Indian male.
Exactly. Like it's like, I mean, it's an indictment, but I'm just like, this guy hasn't changed at all. Like, you know, you would think that what happened to his family 7 years ago.
I don't know if it's an indictment. We are indicting him. I don't think the movie is indicting him at all.
He's just like, yeah, this is how they are.
This is how we are supposed to be. This is what a man is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's why if you notice now, in both movies, there's like one moment where he's like being romantic with her. They gave them like 10 seconds. They're like, Indian men do this also. He feels like, you know, like attracted to her and like he starts like doing that. That's it. Otherwise, there's nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah. It's very like...
There's no like, they never go out on adult dates and like, you know, give the kids to like some, and then the family like, babysit karo, we are going. Then nothing like that happens. I don't think this couple interacts outside of their children.
No, not at all. There's no like, let's sit down and discuss.
Yeah, like this is I mean, right. I would almost think that, at some point could be like turned into like the only thing that keeping them together is the sheer trauma. Otherwise, this marriage could easily fall apart.
Yeah, like Try by Fire, right? Like, which is
Right.
fresh in my mind. But yeah, similar psychology. Yeah.
Okay, then. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review. We did this episode, and we will see you next week.